All right. I now call to order the March 3rd, 2026 Local Government Commission.
Last time.
Welcome, everybody, just in time. Perfect. Let's go ahead and call the roll, please. Cindy.
Good afternoon. This is Cindy Aiken, Assistant General Counsel. We'll start with Secretary Marshall. Here. In person. Thank you. Auditor Bolick.
Here.
Just walked in. Thank you, sir. And Secretary Wooten.
Here.
Thank you. Participating virtually. We have Mr. Brown. Okay. Absent for the moment anyway. And Ms. Hoffman.
Here.
Virtually. We don't know if you had a camera adjustment, but we see your eyes.
No, I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hughes.
Here.
See, participating virtually, and I see, looks like Mr. Brown is
trying.
We'll come back.
I'm
Mr.
present.
Johnson. Here. Okay, in person, Mr. Hughes is here, and Mr. Stiff.
Here.
In person, Treasurer Briner.
Here.
All right, all present and accounted for. For our staff today, LGC Secretary Denise Canada, Director of Debt Management Jennifer Wimmer, Assistant Director of Fiscal Management Becky Jingaleski. Our friends MJ and Lindy, thank you so much behind me doing our audio and visual controls. The meeting proceeding is being recorded and will be made available to the public pursuant to the department's recording of public meetings policy. Please identify yourself when you're speaking today. If you are virtual, please mute yourself when you're not speaking. If the agenda is posted on the website, www.nctreasurer.gov at the LGC page. If we have any changes on the agenda, that will be announced during the course of the meeting. We will take all votes by roll call, and members without objection, your motions and seconds will be considered as a yes vote unless you indicate otherwise during the roll call. Thank you, yes, for coming. That's it.
All right, thanks so much, Cindy. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the flag of North Carolina. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the oath of state,
Love, loyalty, and faith.
Members, let's review the conflict of interest statement. Please take a moment to review the agenda. Commission members are reminded of your duty to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any member have an actual or potential conflict of interest with respect to any matter on the agenda? All right, hearing none. Moving on to approval of the minutes from the last meeting. These were included in your packet. Any questions about the minutes of the last meeting? Otherwise, looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Stiff.
Second.
Thank you, Secretary Marshall. Cindy, will you call the roll?
February 4 minutes, Stiff and Marshall. Auditor Bolick.
Aye.
Secretary Wooten.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Treasurer Briner.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, thank you so much, Cindy. Turning to the consent agenda items, these are the town of Dunn, or the city of Dunn, Dunn, all the way through the item for High Point. Looking for a motion to approve, and then I'll take questions and discussion.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you so much. Any discussion on any items on the consent agenda or any information to share? Any good news, information to share from staff?
Yes, there's one good news. I'd like to point your attention to the first item, which is the city of Dunn. If you notice in the write-up that the interest rate could be locked in within 45 days of closing, since this was sent out, that date has occurred and they have locked in a rate of 3.83%.
While we're on done, just a quick more curiosity question. They talk about selling the parcels and using the proceeds to reimburse the water sewer fund and to support debt service obligations. How are they going to choose between the two? Is there a formula there?
So the land that they are split to sell off, because the parcels, there's 8 different parcels, so they wrap around. Those parcels that they're going to sell off are not associated with the actual purchase of, or excuse me, the purpose of the land. So they are going to then put that back in, but they have already satisfied the debt service plan to repay that, whether or not those come back in, but they are planning to sell that to reimburse them.
Thanks, Jennifer. We also have the City of Dunn leadership team on the line. If y'all would like to unmute and add anything, Manager Hembry, Assistant Manager Godwin, or Finance Director.
Hey there, can you hear us?
I hear you. Thanks for being on the line.
Thank you all. Yeah, this is Justin Hembry. I'm the city manager with the City of Dunn, and Karen Allen, who is our finance director, and Billy Godwin, our assistant managers here. And yes, the question about selling the property, staff explained that correctly. We've got the full amount built in for debt service, but once we do sell those properties, which we're in the process of evaluating options for that right now, that will go back into, correct me if I'm wrong here, but essentially to satisfy some of the debt on this this amount we're taking out.
Yeah, that's true. And keep in mind that only part of the parcels that we purchased are being financed through the debt. So the ones that aren't financed are the primary ones that we're going to try to sell.
Right. So the ones that are not financed will go to the water and sewer fund. The ones that are financed will go to repay debt.
That's correct.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions about any of the items on the consent agenda?
This is Commissioner Hughes. I did have a question on Town of Kernersville.
Sure.
Down under the sources, there's item 4 is construction allowance. Is that an additional contingency, or what exactly is that?
Give us just a minute to get there.
Just questions.
For those who didn't hear, Mr. Hughes' question is on the Town of Kernersville. If you look at the second page of the debt sheet, down under the sources and uses, most of the way down the page, the uses have 4 items listed. Item 3 is contingency and item 4 is construction allowance. And the question is, they sort of sound like the same thing. So what is the construction allowance?
So it is additional contingency, but the other contingency is based on what falls back to the town. That's for the construction with the projects. So yes, it is contingency as well.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions on consent agenda items?
I do.
Mr. Auditor.
City of Greensboro, are they on the line?
City of Greensboro is not on the line as far as I know. Although Greensboro, if you're on the line, please unmute.
I would have to unmute them.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
If there's a name, I can look for them.
We're not aware of them being on the line.
Okay, well, staff heard from them about, just specifically, I'll follow up with them, but it says majority of bids are in hand and the remainder of costs are firm estimates with contingency. What do they mean by with contingency?
Okay, so we did ask about that, and because there's a time frame on these specific projects, because it's an arena and they're going to get, between concerts and the ACC tournament, they have put that contingency in so that when the rest of the bids come in within the next 6 weeks, then they would have enough money in there to pay for those bids. If not, the last project on the list is conditional. So they would not be letting that contract if they cannot finance it.
Are they intending to do these, what they describe as retrofits and upgrades while still also remaining open?
Yes.
Like the Lenovo Center is doing and like Bank of America Stadium.
Exactly. It's structured the same way. And that's why the timeframe mattered on this, because we did ask as staff if it could be delayed for that next contract to come in. Because they needed to get started on the first project that they've already received the bids on, they said that the time was necessary to come to this meeting, which is why we asked them to include a contingency and plan for if that last project came in over bid.
I'm sure we have a Larry Davis with the town of Greensboro. I'm not sure what his title is, but I've unmuted him if you would like to unmute himself and speak.
All right, Mr. Davis, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, I apologize. I actually thought I was on the call previously, so I did something wrong. And then as I was hearing you say, well, there's no one on here from Greensboro. It's like, I'm
No
here.
problem. I'm glad you joined.
Sorry about that. I apologize. My name is Larry Davis. I'm Assistant City Manager with the City of Greensboro. What I've been hearing from the staff is absolutely correct, and thank you. We were under a bit of a schedule focus for 2027. The projects in front of you, we hope to have ready and complete in time for the ACC tournament in March of 2027. So we had spoke with the LGC staff previous that if any of the final bids were to come in beyond what we have allocated, we could certainly delay one or more projects to come in under the total dollar amount. But really did want to try to get on your calendar this month so that we could then go to close later in the month and get started on the projects for which we already have firm bids. So I hope that's helpful.
It is. Thank you. This is Auditor Bullock, and I believe I'll be meeting with you on Friday anyway.
Yes, sir. You will. Absolutely.
Look forward to talking to you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Last call for questions on the consent agenda. Otherwise, I believe we have a motion and a second on the floor. So Cindy, if you would call the roll.
Consent agenda is the units done through the High Point miscellaneous. Marshall Stiff, Auditor Bullock,
Aye.
Secretary Wooten,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman,
Aye.
Mr. Hughes,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Aye. And Treasurer Bryan.
Aye.
Thank you all. Motion carries.
All right, thank you so much. Turning to attachment B, this is the one FPIC unit on the agenda, which is the town of Wilkesboro. So I'll turn this over to Jennifer to briefly describe the project and then over to Becky to explain briefly why this is an FPIC unit.
So the town of Wilkesboro is coming for approval of an $8.4 million state revolving loan for a intake and interconnect upgrade. One thing to point out, you have seen the title up in the consent agenda with North Wilkesboro. This is actually a joint project and a regional project that will benefit both towns. And they've worked really hard together to get this project going. And as we've done in prior meetings, when there is a group or several units, specifically in water sewer, but if they're working together in any way, we want to present them as an entire project. There will be one manager for the project itself, but both towns are contributing and benefiting from this project. I will turn it over to Becky.
Thank you for considering this. I'm going to tell you about Wilkesboro. They have appeared on the unit assistance list for several years due to low general fund reserves, recurring budget ordinance violations, and past liquidity challenges in the water and sewer fund. The general fund balance declined to 3.44% of expenditures. That was down from 2024 and well below the statewide average of 34%. The town did not appropriate any fund balance in the 2026 budget as part of its effort to stabilize reserves. The town attributes the decline primarily to revenue timing. The countywide property reval effective in fiscal year 2026 is projected to increase property tax revenue by roughly $1 million at a 99% collection rate. The ultimate impact is dependent on the tax rate adopted for fiscal year 2027. The town anticipates selling 3 parcels within the next 1 or 2 years, which would materially improve fund balance if completed. However, we're talking about the water and sewer fund. The water and sewer fund shows operational improvements in 2025 with a positive operating income and a quick ratio of 1.53% or 1.53, which is above the 1 point benchmark. The unrestricted cash ratio increased to 8.11, although that's a little low. We'd like to see it at least 16%. That's our benchmark. A utility rate increase was effective October 1st, 2024, and is expected to further strengthen recurring revenues and liquidity. The town's recent audit history includes budget ordinance violations and a self-reported statutory investment violation, which was actually back in 2023, which they corrected right away as soon as they found out about it. The town reports enhanced internal review procedures, improved budget controls, and closer monitoring of the statutory requirements. The LGC staff acknowledge improvements to the enterprise fund liquidity, more conservative budget practices, projected revenue growth from the reval. The general fund reserves do remain significantly low, and that's going to take some time and monitoring. Sustained reserve growth, successful execution for planned revenue enhancements, and ongoing statutory compliance will be essential for their continuing purposes. I just want to point out that this is definitely the water and sewer that is working on this project. It's not the general fund. They're working on the general fund, but the water and sewer fund is really where we need to focus on. And measures have been taken to increase revenues, more acutely forecast other revenue streams in the 2026 budget. 2026 budget is doing well. Projected revenues are coming in. They had increased fees, and the prior year interfund receivable loan between funds was received in the current fiscal year, and this receivable was part of the drain on fund balance. So that's been taken care of.
Thank you so much. That's helpful. So I do a bit, if I can add a little bit to what Becky said, I think the key point was right near the end. We as staff have concerns about the general fund balance, but this is a water and sewer fund project. And a few other things that I can point out about this town is that we know this is a town that was behind on their audits, and the current finance officer is someone that came in, you may remember from the last time Wilkesboro was here, and they actually came in person. The current finance officer came in, the town manager, and they worked to get fully caught up on their audit. So we were rather proud of them about that. And the current finance officer, I believe, is also the one that identified that the town was in an illegal investment, immediately divested of that. So they have made a lot of progress in the past few years. And I know that we have Ken Nolan and Hallie Ratcliffe on the line, which is the town manager and finance officer. If you have any questions about this joint project with North Wilkesboro.
Motion to approve the water project.
Thanks so much.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I just have a question.
Auditor.
For Manager Nolan. And I did make some calls about this. Just the plans on increasing the fund balance for Wilkesboro. I understand that there is a plan and there's a strategy. I'd like to just hear from the town manager on sort of an update on that.
Yes, sir. Am I coming through?
Yes, you are.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm Ken Nolan, the Wilkesboro manager. Been here 26 plus years, and we hate that we found ourselves on the UAL for the audits, which then created other issues about our cash flow that we weren't aware of because we didn't have our audits caught up. But we're past that. We're working on developing financial resources moving forward. This last year, as noted, we had a tax revaluation. City Council lowered the tax rate from 48 to 46 cents, but effectively increased the taxes by 11 cents. So they took a very big move in 1 year to right the ship. And we had been transferring some dollars from the utility fund to the general fund to prop it up. That has quit. So now both funds have to run on their own. And so it's going to take a little time in the general fund to get it where it needs to go, but we're on our way. We got two new board members. They're very conservative. We've started our budget already. We've started it extra a month early to get ahead of it. And I think we'll be prepared with a good budget this year that will continue to add to the fund balance.
And if I may, is it okay to ask?
Please go ahead.
Mr. Nolan, is it fair to say that the work that needs to be done here with water and sewer, particularly water, is necessary for retention and expansion of current economic development and businesses that are located there in Wilkesboro and in North Wilkesboro?
Yes, sir. So a couple things. One is I would just say the intake project itself, as I noted earlier, I came here about almost 27 years ago. I have been working on that project since I've been here. It's been the hardest thing to get approved in my career of close to 40 years in this business. But the two towns have finally come together, let politics get aside, and made good decisions. And now we got this intake coming. It will help both North Wilkesboro and Wilkesboro. Specifically for Wilkesboro, it helps us keep up with the pace of Tyson Foods as they continue to grow in our community. And so we've got to maintain that. As you're aware, this last year, you approved a wastewater project that we're in full bore on. And between the two, we should have adequate capacity for both our current customers and then have growth capacity for the future. So we're very excited to get both these projects moving in Wilkesboro.
Thank you.
First, just a comment. Congratulations on overcoming local politics to do some regionalization steps. That's wonderful for all the citizens of Wilkesboro and North Wilkesboro. So you're to be commended for that because it is not easy, as you noted. I would be curious about cost allocations across the two towns here. Good in any number of ways, per capita, per linear foot. I can think of a handful of others. How did you do the cost allocations across the two municipalities?
So we actually, we've got the way the facility works. They'll run independently of each other, but they've got a common wall in the middle and some piping that allows us to exchange water. So we're actually both paying for the full share of each other's project. I'm paying for all mine; they're paying for all theirs. The only thing that Wilkesboro has done, and we did this as an act of good faith, is we have allowed North Wilkesboro to site their project with us with our project at no cost. So we didn't charge for any land fees or any leasing moving forward. We've given them the rights to use the site for the lifetime of the project.
Thank you.
I had a question. Looks like y'all borrowed the last issuance back in July, 68 million, I believe. What was that? Just for context, what was that?
Yes, sir. That was the wastewater plant upgrade. It'll move it from a 4.9 million gallon plant to an 8 million gallon plant. I would say I wish we had this project done 10 years earlier. It would have been about 75% less than cost. It's the life has changed. But we worked, and that part of that project, we worked out an agreement, a cost sharing agreement with Tyson Foods that they will commit to a certain level of sales. That helps us both and water and sewer. So we've got that agreement in place for the next 10 years with Tyson to help both projects.
Wonderful. And then kind of a follow-up question. I see you're pretty good rate increase on the sewer and water this year. What have y'all projected out future rate increases? Are going to be more? I imagine there are more coming, but the severity of those and what the model's looking like.
Yes, sir. I'd be glad to talk on that briefly. So one thing I'll say about the town of Wilkesboro is the elected officials have been very aggressive in raising rates over the last 10 years plus. We've probably hit 7.5% a year on average, close to 10 years running. We gave last year off because we had that big revaluation. We'll come back this next year. I think we need one, possibly two more rate increases around 7.5% each to fully pay for all the work in front of us and keep the funds solid. We're going through another rate study right now to update that. The study we had it's about 3-4 years old. We need to refreshen that.
And what's your rate structure like? I see the base charge, or I assume that's a base charge for 3,000 gallons. And then beyond that, you charge an inclining rate or per thousand?
Yeah, it's a per thousand rate. Generally, for the most part, everybody pays the same per thousand rate. We do have a contract rate with Tyson that's a little bit different, but for the most part, it's about the same. And I will say, if you look at that minimum bill, particularly on residential, it's very low. We don't have a big population in Wilkesboro. I got 1,200 homes. So we can raise their rates all we want. It doesn't bring in a lot of revenue. The rate increases is when we raise the rates on the corporations, particularly the industrial class, which Tyson happens to be about 70% of that load. So we work hand in hand with them whenever a rate increase is coming, so they understand what it's about, what it's for, and they've been good partners to work with us on that.
And when you benchmark your rates against other utilities, how do y'all stack up kind of against peer groups?
So in the residential area, we are probably in the bottom 2% the state. There maybe Winston-Salem, we're very close to them. I've not looked at the residential side recently. In the industrial side, we're probably in the bottom 20%. We used to be a little bit better, but as these projects have come, we've had to raise rates.
Okay, so that tells me even with these rate increases, you're not at risk of getting beyond market, if you will.
That's right. No, we still have capacity. And a matter of fact, we're one of the better performers in the Tyson system for utility costs. So that makes us feel that we've got room to continue as needed, with projects going forward.
All right. Well, I appreciate all the work and congratulate you all on the work you've been doing. And obviously these are big capital investments, but as you pointed out earlier, they got to come at some point. And so I appreciate y'all tackling it. Congratulations to y'all on that.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions on this project? Otherwise, we have a motion and a second on the floor. It's a new.
Okay, for Wilkesboro, that was Johnson and Stiff, the motion and second. Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Auditor Bowling?
Aye.
Secretary Wooten?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Hughes?
Aye.
And Treasurer Bryan?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. I have a few updates for you and a few comments before we adjourn. I wanted to call your attention back to something that Manager Nolan just said. We were behind on our audits, and so that caused other problems with our finances because we didn't know the state of our finances, something to that effect. And that's a reason, the key reason, that we're pushing so hard on units to be caught up on their audits. It's something that we are trying to communicate regularly. This is not just a checkbox. This is not just something the state asks for because it's something we can request and you can mark off the list. It truly matters for the state of your finances if you have your audits caught up. And if you don't, then you don't know the condition of your finances. And so saying that, you probably saw the letter to the town that I sent to the town of Littleton that I included in your materials. So it's not part of the meeting packet per se, but just something that I shared with you. This is the letter I sent to the town recently. Littleton is further behind on submitting the annual financial audit than any other local government in North Carolina. The last audit financial statements that we received from Littleton, we received back in 2020, which probably don't need to put out is a very long time ago. hence the letter to the town of Littleton. As of yet, I have not heard back from them. I am hoping that the town will respond to the request that they come to the next meeting of the LGC and can discuss with you and with all of us their plans to get caught up. I do know that one situation that the town is facing is a significant mismatch between the amount of money they have in the bank and what actually shows on the books. As I understand it, the last update our staff received was that the town was in the negative on the books and had hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank. So
It's
this
the
whole,
alternative, I suppose.
right, better than the alternative, but not a good situation. That this is, I don't think any of you are eager to take over a town's finances. I'm rather happy that we do not have any towns under the control of the LGC right now, but certainly staff stand ready to do what we need to do. So that's a bit of the background on that letter, and of course, hope to see them at the April meeting. So that to be determined. Another update for you briefly is you probably know that the federal requirements of ensuring that materials online are ADA compliant. And so I'll point that out, or I'm sure your agencies are dealing with that as well. But next month's materials will look a little bit different because we will be pushing out an ADA compliant debt sheet. So you're not crazy, you're not imagining it. It will be a slightly different format. Also next month, unrelated to that requirement, I believe that we will be switching these meetings to be hosted on Zoom rather than go to webinar. A little bit TBD on the timing on that, but I would expect that will be the case for the April meeting. So watch your emails and we'll be getting in touch. If we are making that change for the April meeting, we'll certainly be getting in touch with you in advance to give you the link, make sure you have the software and that sort of thing, and ask you to bear with us on the transition from GoToWebinar over to hosting the meetings on Zoom. Speaking of the next meeting, April 1st at 1:30. I know with the Council of State traveling around the state for America's 250, you know we've moved that meeting quite a few times to have a quorum, so appreciate your forbearance, perhaps is the word, April 1st at 1:30. Unless, see any other comments, otherwise we procurement. Yep. Yes, Auditor Bullock.
Just an update, I would commend to the members of the board our website, auditor.nc.gov. Our team did complete an investigative audit of the town of Speed. And again, Secretary Canada, to your point you just made about Littleton, that is a cautionary tale. That's what I said in our letter when we released the investigative report. The town of Speed, and we found the opposite. We didn't find a healthy fund balance, but we found a situation where you had a small community where the town's finances, for lack of, I'll just say it plain, were at least partially hijacked by a foreign scam. Because when we went in and took a look, we actually found that the finances of the town were paper. The bank statements were in paper, and those bank statements were actually going to a small community border town in the state of Texas. And that's where they were going. And so we engaged the proper authorities that had jurisdiction in Texas to go help our team investigate. Our commitment, again, town of 65, we put just as much effort into a town of 65 as we do into the city of Charlotte or the city of Raleigh. And we found that, in fact, there was an individual that proper authorities deemed was also duped. And it was a small amount. In the big picture, $3,500, $3,600 is not earth-shattering amounts of money, but to the town of Speed, it's real dollars. And those dollars were taken fraudulently from the town over a period of about 18 months in small increments. And I know Secretary Marshall talked about fraud this morning at the Council of State, as did Commissioner of Insurance Causey. And so it does exist. And so I'm hopeful that, given that, and again, that is also a cautionary tale that can extend, and I'm going to bore everybody with it but maybe down the road we'll have even additional data on this, but it goes to disaster recovery, because Speed was a town that was affected severely by Hurricane Floyd in 1999. And for lack of a better way to describe it, it never really recovered. And so that is also a cautionary tale to municipalities like Speed on how we as a state need to answer disaster recovery call with an intention in terms of rebuilding communities and making them viable places to live and work. And so businesses that are there can also provide employment for people so they don't have to leave. And that those municipalities. And then I think the LGC staff and the treasurer staff have done a fantastic job in terms of helping navigate, in my opinion, the town of Speed toward an ultimate dissolution, which will probably be more effective on behalf of those citizens and more efficient for their everyday living and the use of their tax dollars as well. So anyway, that's my update from Speed. So appreciate the opportunity to give that.
Thank you. No, I
We did follow through.
appreciate the update, and I will just add on to that to say that we do understand from the staff at the League of Municipalities that Speed stays on track for dissolution by June 30th. They've had at least one of the required public hearings. You'll remember that one of the steps in dissolution is to come before the LGC with a plan, sort of describing the details, and the League staff are anticipating bringing that on your May agenda. So a little bit to be continued on there, on that front. I have one more thing to add along that is when you have Speed with 65 residents and you have other very small towns, the LGC does not have a policy that says there is a certain threshold below which you may not have a town. That we don't have any policy like that, but the reality is that it takes a certain amount of staffing to run a town in a responsible, efficient way. And in the same way we talk about water sewer systems and say a water sewer system has 40 homes on it, there's no way they can get the rates high enough to pay for the repairs they need. To a certain extent in these smallest towns, there's no way to get the property tax rate high enough on 30 or 40 or even maybe 100 households to be able to run the town. That's not a policy statement, but that is something that I think this commission will continue to grapple with in the years to come. And I don't think Speed will be the only dissolution that comes before this commission in future years. So, Secretary Marshall.
If Speed does in fact follow along to the process of dissolution, what happens with regard to the audits that are not yet complete for past years? What?
Nothing. They won't be done.
Secretary Marshall, we did take a look at their finances. We did not find any public corruption, for lack of a better term. There was no. The fraud came as a result of an overseas venture that had gotten someone in Texas to push the right buttons in order to get that done. And they didn't swipe the whole account. They did it $40, $50, $60, $400. They did it in smaller increments at a time.
Okay.
And pulled those dollars. We did not find any, that was where we found if there was misuse of public funds, it was due to that fraudulent activity. And it amounted to a little less than $3,600 total.
Not worth chasing. It would cost multiple times.
No, but I will say this, the proper authorities now have that also as a baseline. So as that scam begins to unravel, because they will continue their fraudulent work with other entities and with other individuals, and that adds to the case and the evidentiary file to build an ultimate case, which may or may not happen, but it certainly is part of it. But you're right. How much resources do we expend on $3,600? I mean, we took it as far as we could from the state auditor's office on behalf of the people of Speed.
Members, any other comments or questions before we adjourn? Mr. Stitt.
Just to jump back to Littleton. So
Littleton.
I understand you sent the letter. What would the process be leading up to April? Because it sounds like the potential is there for us to get even more involved. Put it that way. So
diplomatic.
try to be. So what would that look like?
Sure, that's
Yeah.
not a decision I would expect this group to make at the April meeting. We need to plan ahead a bit more
Sure.
to, if you're talking about taking over the town's finances, which is what I think you're alluding to. Ideally, the town of Littleton will come to the April meeting and have an honest conversation with us about how they ended up where they are, but more, how they think they can get out of it. I believe they recently appointed a town council member as oversee finances. Littleton, forgive me if I'm mischaracterizing that, something to that effect. And they also, as I understand it, have recently contracted with a new bookkeeper, which is, in the smaller towns, not uncommon to have an outside bookkeeper separate from your external auditor. So they're taking actions, and I think the best case for April would be that they come here and have an honest discussion and update with you about, here are our challenges and here's how we think we can fix it, or we don't think we can fix it.
Is that uncharacteristic for them not to be in communication at all?
They have talked to our staff to some extent. I have not, the staff have talked to our staff. I have not heard from the governing board members, but in my relatively short tenure in this role, have not had to write very many governing boards in that way.
Right. Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Stiff. All right, voice vote on adjournment.
Aye.
Thanks so much.
That's it, sir. Keep it, keep it.
That's what you're best. Not bad.